But what I noticed about Patty is that Patty knows, and I think you'll appreciate when she starts speaking, that this is about working at that level where you convince those leaders and those activists in the community to look at what's happening in the dementia community that they live in and how to address their needs as part of the overarching work of the Age and Dementia Friendly Network. And she's so good at that. And so without further ado, I want to bring Patty Sullivan up to give us a little more insights into how things are going with Dementia Friendly. Thank you.
So this morning, I am joined by yet another partner in crime that we are bringing to the table here on Age and Dementia Friendly, and that is my colleague here, Ruth Newman. And Ruth is an architect. She is I think the longest-serving chairperson of the Boston Society of Architects. Recently retired. From the BSA, but who is joined with me along with some other architects and regional planners to help define what age and dementia friendly physical infrastructure means. Oh, I'm sorry, and Ruth is as a senior designer with LWDA designers running their senior living group. So this is how we got here. The Governor's Committee on Alzheimer's and Other Related Dementias, which is an advisory committee that is embedded in statute, so it doesn't change with the administration. This committee pulled, or as a result of discussions, assigned to James Fuccione and myself, because of our extensive experience in architecture, the charge of coming together and working on age and dementia-friendly design with the purpose of us embedding in state procurement age and dementia design criteria. So any building that's built with public money would have to reflect these criteria. So that's where we started. So true to form, we reached out for help. And we were really lucky to be joined by experts from Elder Affairs and Pam McLeod. We work extensively, obviously, with MCOA and MHAC's partners. Design for Aging, Boston Society for Architects really, really was the key to all of this, along with our regional planners and a number of other folks who came in for a short period of time to bring a certain kind of expertise, be it in transportation or in housing, and sort of came in for a little bit and moved on. So we were really fortunate here. So the questions we're going to talk about today, because when I say, oh, let's talk about age and dementia-friendly physical infrastructure, people look at me like I am crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And so we're going to answer some of these questions. We're going to talk about why it is so essential to have this in your buildings and parks and any place that the general public is wandering around. What does it look like, and where can you find the effort or the guidelines that will help you? Now, anybody who knows me knows I take every opportunity to talk about what dementia is and also the prevalence of it. And I think one of the statistics that really sticks in my mind when it comes to dementia is the last one. 1 in 8 people over the age of 65 has some form of dementia. All right, so look around your table. You can count out every 8 people, but it's very prevalent. It's all around us. Every single person in this room has a dementia story. And some of you are going to talk about not only your neighbor and your friend, but yourself. And so to the extent that this condition is everywhere, we need to be everywhere supporting people who are living with a condition.
We'll start a little bit with the challenging of aging. And the fact that I think everybody in this room knows that dementia is not part of normal aging. It is a set of symptoms that are reflecting diseases of the brain. And dementia becomes a problem when it prevents from a person to be part of normal life, to do all the functions that a person needs to do for themselves and for their family and socially. And because dementia is closely connected with older age, not exclusively, but closely connected, people that live with dementia have other underlying conditions that they have to deal with, like, for instance, vision issues, hearing issues, balance issues, agility, strength, and all sorts of a myriad of other chronic diseases that are manifest themselves more in older age. So this is what we're focusing on as a team. This is what we're focusing on in our architectural and design practice, is to take the tool that we are knowledgeable about, which is the physical environment around us, and tame it to make it, to improve the results and the quality of life of elders. So I like this slide, and everybody asks, what does that have to do with dementia? It's an upside-down pyramid. And the reason that I'm using this is that we're turning the concept upside down. Instead of starting with environments that are, for the general public, sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're not really accessible, but they're cool, we're going the other way around. And we're saying that environments that are good for people with dementia symptoms are good for all older people. And those environments, those features in the environment that are good for older people are good for everybody. It's just good design. And it is our passion in the company that I work with to make this design gorgeous. So, so one of the things, one of the guidelines that we work with is the thought process that is behind universal design. And a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between universal design and all the accessibility codes? We have mass access, we have ADA, they all tell us what to do. And the difference is fundamental. Universal design looks at a holistic approach to the environment and to the interface between the human interface with the environment, not just the mobility and the accessibility issues of it. Accessibility and mobility are part of the holistic design of making an environment all inclusive. But most of it's just always a side comment that I make, that codes are the minimum acceptable set of features, minimum. And when we deal with the well-being of the population and the older population in general, minimum is not good enough. So we are really working on pushing the codes and pushing the regulatory authorities and making them understand that what was good in the 1970s for the Vietnam vets coming back from the war is not really appropriate for an older person, frail, needing assistance, and also dealing with cognitive issues. So just very quickly, universal design is not just mobility accessibility. It's based on equitable use that can deal with diverse abilities and have answers for them. Flexibility in use. It's not just you have to do it this way. There are workarounds that are inherently incorporated in the design. It is simple and intuitive. You can look at the space, you can look at the, let's say, a tool, and you can figure out how it works. So a lot of cues and clues from how we design the space are giving people the information that they need. Another feature of universal design is tolerance for error. You made a mistake. You took the wrong turn. The design gives you a way out, points you to a way out. This is not right, but it's not a big deal. Just do that, and you'll be out of the wrong turn. And everything you need to do does not require a huge physical effort. You need to turn things, pull things, depress things, push doors. They need to be easy for somebody who is either using mobility aids, not having the right good balance, or just lost some of the strength. So So what is the physical environment that we are kind of working and taming to make work? So everything that is around us, everything we see, hear, touch, smell, touch under our feet, makes the environment, and every one of these aspects can be worked on, thought through, and controlled. So a good environment provides physical and cognitive support. Examples: physical support, you're walking along a corridor, there is a nice looking handrail. It doesn't look like, oh my God, I'm a handrail and I'm going to support you. It just looks as part of the design, part of the millwork. And you know that if you see it and you need some support, or in your wheelchair and you want to pull yourself, a handrail is a physical support, and that's just an example. Cognitive support, we'll talk about that in much more detail later, and some of these toolbox tricks are really financially neutral. You just need to think and use the right things. So a good environment compensates for diminishing abilities. Another good example is the size of the fonts on a sign. You know, there are signs that I have to go really close to figure out what's written on them. So if you're thinking about being able to see and decipher what to do from a sign, think about the contrast between the letters and the background, and think about the size of the fonts. Very simple, just one example. Promotes accessibility and safety. We talked about accessibility, obviously. I just walked into this lovely building, opened the doors, and the first thing that I saw, a bunch of stairs. So I had to figure out, what would a person in a wheelchair do? And then later I found out that there is a chair lift, which is not great. It's like a solution to a problem. As designers, we should avoid problems and not come back with solutions to them. And all this just eliminate unnecessary struggles. You know, if you get out of your house and all that you have to think of is, would I be able to get into this building? Will the curb cut be close enough? Will it be flat? Am I going to find some area on the sidewalk that has heaving bricks and cobblestones? So that just starts your day with anxiety, and that's not great. That even multiplies the cognitive issues. So minimize distractions, you know, that's kind of obvious, not just for old people, people with dementia. And I always like to end with this, like a goal: give joy. Think about the fact that life at any age, with any abilities, should be joyful.
So, thank you, James, the co-chair of this committee, or subcommittee, for distributing a copy of the guide and the QR code that will allow you to get a copy of this guide. We cover in these categories buildings, public outdoor spaces, so parks, transportation, and housing are the big topic areas. But within the work that we have been doing, we have been reaching within these subcommittees to people who are interested in our work. And probably the most recent example is the new director of the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency is a woman who's really interested in accessibility. So we're now working with them on how to make shelters and their whole plans reflect the needs of people living with dementia. So it's a very simple example, and this is a typical story where we have a meeting, they're all excited, we're all excited, and a staff person said, well, we're sort of done because we have universal design. And then I have to nicely applaud them because it's great that they have universal design, but we need something more than that. And so this is sort of how we've organized our work.
Okay, so what are our goals when we look at an environment? The overarching goal is improve quality of life for everybody, for people with dementia, for older people, for everybody that is using the environment. So for older people and people with all different levels of dementia, maintaining independence is critical. And we know that a lot of times you cannot really go back to where you were before, but you can augment the cues and the clues from the environment that allows you to be able to understand, in this room, this is what we do, this is a good clue, these are my tricks to write notes to myself, and I can continue to be as independent as I can. Sustaining personality and identity. A lot of people kind of lose interest in what they have done, and the people around them don't insist enough to get them back to where they were. I remember a personal story that in a project that we were doing in an existing assisted living, independent living community in Massachusetts, one of the residents was an older architect. And instead of saying, yeah, okay, architect, we started looking at her and getting her history, where she was a principal in the 50s, a principal in an architectural office, and was involved in unbelievable work for Harvard University. So she became our advisor as an architect and a resident and a user. And I took her to Design for Aging committee meetings. And it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. And kind of insisting on, even though a lot of things are taken away from you because of your abilities, remaining who you are and having the environment support it is extremely important. And we talked about the environment as a compensation for decreasing. You know, if you need more light to read or to put your makeup on, get more light. So you don't have to continue behaving like when you were 20. Use everything that is at your disposal to improve conditions. And the environment should present manageable choices. So floor plans that are like a maze, where you get someplace and all the corridors look the same, and you have to make a decision, and you don't have any information to make the decision, that's not great for anybody. Again, I'm going back to my upside-down pyramid. And the last item that I have here is maintain the normal. If all your life you loved to garden, continue that. Allow or enable in your environments the options for gardening that does not require bending over all the way or sitting on the floor. There are ways. People thought about it. If you loved doing yoga all your life, so you're probably in pretty good shape even in older age, but maybe you can't do the pretzel things that you used to do before. There are ways to do that. So maintain your own personal normal. And so let me see. So now we're going to talk about some examples and characteristics of what is a dementia and age-friendly environment. And these are actually really more like anecdotal examples that show you what we're thinking about. So the environment needs to be familiar. If you live in New England or in Martha's Vineyard or in South Shore, creating a Spanish adobe community is not really the right way to go. Or if you are coming from a more traditional house, it doesn't mean that all environments for older people need to look like they're from the 17th century, but don't make it jarring, make it familiar. And legible and reinforcing explanations and cues and clues. And what I mean by reinforcing is that sometimes appealing to different senses to reinforce, like a pictogram, a text, maybe some music in the room that tells you what the room is all about. If it's a dining room, maybe clinking of silverware and the smell of food. All these things are reinforcing each other that you are in the right place, even if you're finding it a little difficult to maneuver. So the spaces are advertising their use. So everybody knows that. That's very familiar. You've seen it all your life. It has both a pictogram and the text. This here is not perfect. It has a few different elements like the awning tells you that this is an entrance to a good, fun place. The text tells you what it is. The red door is a very good, you go and enter the red door, but then if you're in a wheelchair, you're in trouble. And so this is just an example of trying, but not getting there. And maybe, I don't know, I have not been to this place, maybe they do have an alternate entrance, but ideally as designers, we don't want to make the accessible entrance the alternate entrance. It should be the main entrance, together with stairs. So this image here is a dining area, so it's very clear that it's a dining kitchen connected to food. And in addition to it, the artwork on the wall is also enforcing the fact that this is a dining room. And what is this? Can somebody guess? It is a cool bench. Not only it is not age, dementia, and human friendly, I think it's not even bum friendly. So.
One day, we use that picture of that bench all the time, and one day I'm going to present it, and the architect or the designer is going to raise his hand and object. But it, you know, the bench is a good. We're showing again things that are clear, that are visually and acoustically sound. They're safe, and we'll talk more specifically about the importance of signals in flooring and walls and the use of contrast. It is safe and secure without being visibly restrictive. So you pretty much can wander anywhere in these spaces. And again, lighting here can be controlled to adjust for glare, light, and acoustics.
And I can just add one more little thing about this image, where this is in a community for people with memory care, memory support. And Department of Public Age actually requires that common areas for dementia units, in order to be declared dementia units, must have acoustical treatment. And we really wanted this space to be nice and grand with the cathedral ceiling. And obviously, these nice panels that fit well in this room would not have worked there. So we did some research and found those almost looking like gypsum, but with serious acoustical values, and put them along the slope of the roof, and created the level of livelihood of acoustical feature that is needed in that room.
You also see those panels being used in libraries, and in any restaurants, any place that needs to get a handle on their acoustics. So here again is our report. We're going to give you a little bit of example, just focusing on one area that we're all familiar with, and that are buildings. And I will promise you that when you leave here today, after this presentation, you are going to walk into the next space, and you're going to become like me and Ruth. You look at the walls. Does it contrast with the floor? Is the floor? This is not an age and dementia friendly carpet. But so all of these things, which we know at some point, they're going to paint the walls here, right? So why not pick the right paint? They're going to have to replace the carpeting. Why not pick the right carpeting? So this all are providing you with examples that you can use within your own community. And I say this all the time to town administrators: are you ever going to paint town hall? And the answer is yes. So let's get it right. Okay, buildings. This is one of my favorite buildings. I don't know if Corinne White made it today, but this building, everybody knows what this building is? It's Boston City Hall. This is an example of a don't, okay? So the primary entrance is supposed to be on the ground level. I don't even know where the primary entrance is, so it can't be on the ground level. Technically, you can go up these stairs, you can go up these stairs. On the other side, there are 3 or 4 more entrances. And notice, no signage. So, and we all know what this building is, but there's only a sign on one side, and it's all the way at the top of the building. So you have to be on the right side of the building, and you have to look way up. Well, older adults and people living with dementia don't have peripheral vision. So things have to be at eye level, right in front of you, to be clear in terms of communication. So again, the use of awnings. We just had a good example of the blue striped awning. Some way to know there's an entrance. And then accessible to wheelchairs and mobilized devices. I know that in this building there is accessibility via a wheelchair, but I can't tell you where it is. And it's a big building on lots of different levels. So if you've got to walk around to try to find it, you got to walk around the whole 2 or 3 blocks that the building is on. So one of my favorite stories about this building is that the director of the Boston Strong Commission, Emily Shea, had a job interview with Mayor Menino. And it was on a holiday, on Labor Day or something. And so there wasn't anybody around in the building, and she couldn't figure out how to get in. So she finally had to call the mayor's assistant to tell her how to get into the building because she was late for her interview, which I always thought spoke volumes about this building. So again, these are more positive things. Entryways and exits are obvious. And, even in framed glass, you've got something that shows you the definition of a door. It doesn't require excessive pressure, so an adult can do it easily. We have presses to operate the doors. I was wearing my witch hat, but when I came in this morning to this building, I was using my Age Dementia Friendly hat, and I couldn't find the button on the main door to open the door. And so I finally just gave up, and I was pulling a cart with all sorts of stuff on it. And then I thought, oh, it's all right, there's a lift here. Well, the lift is not working. So I had to carry my stuff box by box up the stairs. Not ideal. Sidewalks are wide enough for a wheelchair and have curb cuts, and they're non-slip and obstruction-free. So there's nothing in your way if you are trying to move either with a walker or a wheelchair or just trying to take a stroll.
Seating. And I think we kind of go back to the non-bump friendly bench, that seating is very important to first of all think about strategic locations where you want to put it, so that people don't have long walks, and which will deter them from visiting locations that they're interested in visiting. But also they should be the right height. They should be with arms so that they can get out of the chair without a lot of problems. And usually, if you think about seating as a social group, just one bench is not enough. Usually, if you think about it, you make a little group bench so people can face each other and create a conversation group.
Bench story is another good example. You have benches all over your towns, right? You have them in front of the senior center, you've got them in front of the library, you have them in front of town hall. Just buy the right bench. And if you don't know what the right bench is, call me. So wayfinding is also essential because people need to know how to get around. And it's not only the signage that we've talked about, but it's great to have other clues that you can use yourself to, in some ways, self-navigate. So, stair signs, clear trash signs. We showed you a bathroom sign so people know where they're headed. And in this building or on this campus, I don't find the signage very good. And if I come in the wrong exit, and I was laughing with a police officer who was trying to direct me about, do I just turn left at the cross? Well, there are a whole bunch of crosses on this campus. It doesn't quite work. So another point in wayfinding is bright, colorful objects. So if you want to be reminded of something, and there's a big 2 orange benches there, you can file that and say, okay, when I come out, I need to turn left at the orange benches. or I need to turn right at the bright blue bench that was paid for by the AARP Challenge Grant Program. So lots of different ways to use signage and wayfinding.
So there are two paths that people can make a difference when they're dealing with the environments. One is renovations, refurbishing, repurposing of an existing building. And that is usually less expensive and less of a big deal in terms of financing and long schedules, but they are dealing with a lot of existing things, existing facts that they have to work with, and they have to, as I said, tame to make work. The other may be more kind of like future-looking and aggressive in terms of activity is new construction. You make a decision that your community, your college, your hospital, your nursing home, your library needs a new building. And then you're starting with a clean slate, and you can involve people that are experienced either as your architects or as peer reviewers, which is really important. Sometimes if you design a library, you want a library expert, but that library expert may not have been through or in the trenches like we do. So you can create a team where an expert elder design or memory support or age-friendly design architect join forces, and I have been a consultant to other architects and clients that were aware of these needs. And it's usually a happy family because they get to learn a lot of new things. And the users and the clients win because they get good age-friendly, dementia-friendly decisions. So we're going to go quickly through some more kind of architecty examples. And what you're looking at here is a very simple new building where the concept of open plan and the ability to grasp where you are, where you need to go is right in front of you. So you have to rely less on signage and pointers because the building tells the story. It's obvious. So I call it like building with good bones. You start with the sequence of spaces that make sense. From the entrance, you find the entrance easily. It's very clear. It has a feature. It has some signs. It's accessible. You go in, and as you go in, instead of seeing a series of stairs, you immediately see, oh, this is where I need to go because that's the reception desk, or if I know where to go, this is where the dining area, and so on. So the spaces also need to be forgiving. As I said before, if you made a mistake, you don't have to backtrack. You can find another way to get to where you want to go. So this one here has a loop, and your entrance is very, very simple. You go in, you have a vestibule, and as you enter, you already see some common spaces looming on the left and the right. You also see the courtyard, which adds a lot of beautiful daylight into the space, and daylight is critical. So this here is an example of a memory support unit that used the open plan. So you can see that when you walk in the corridor, the wall that separates the dining area and the corridor is a pretty good-looking half partition. You walk, come out of your room, you can smell the food when it's mealtime, and you can see the kitchen, you can see the dining room. You can also see the internal courtyard, very similar to the plan that we showed before. And well lit during the day, but also well lit at night. Natural light is critical for all the spaces because in addition to making the space more energetic and good looking and fun, the sunlight also regulates the sleep-wake cycle with us. So exposure to natural light is really important. And then in the last few years, technology is helping us with lighting fixtures and engines that mimic the makeup of the light with artificial light. So it continues the cycle and makes sure that people sleep better at night. And this is an intervention that is completely wonderful because you use beautiful light fixtures. Nobody complains about the light being a little more amber at night, and it just does the trick of helping regulate sleep and wake cycles. And we have done it in a memory support assisted living and got anecdotal comments from nursing and staff that it cuts the wandering at night significantly. And when it cuts the wandering at night, it cuts the danger of falls. So that was a project where we did that. So in renovations, you don't have a clean slate. You have to work with what you have. And here come all the kind of tricks and tools that are mainly cost neutral. As Patty said, you have to paint. Let's talk to somebody that understands the concept of paint families, contrast between paints, having too much contrast on the floor, even in this room where you have the patches of light on the dark carpet. That's an issue. You have to be able to control the direct, and also the use of landmarks. And landmarks can be anything. They can be a sculpture, they can be an art on the wall, they can be the red rocking chair somewhere, they can be a window that overlooks a landmark. Go by the window and you see the steeple of the church, kind of thing. So making openings in longer corridors that relate to the outside are helping in orientation. So here you see this choice of my favorite color, yellow, as making clear which doors are what in a corridor that is otherwise could have been just a blah corridor. You have, again, the difference in color and contrast between horizontal and vertical make it clear where the floor ends and the wall starts. However, contrast in the floor itself can be dangerous because dark spots next to light spots make people with vision impairment think that they are different levels. So when you look at something and you think it's a step and you're not sure and you're starting to do this, you end up tripping and falling. So here are a few more examples of use of color and also making the doors that should be used by people or residents have a nice wood finish. The door went to the storage area, just kind of continued the color palette of the corridor to kind of hide it and not make it a feature. I was thinking if we wanted to really go all the way, we could have put a piece of handrail in front of it and this door will really be not visible. Using the contrast and color on the outside, you see that the edge is marked really clearly with a lighter color to prevent people in wheelchairs from falling over or people with walkers from tripping and falling over. Here you have an example. There was a kind of a tendency of the cool white on white on white on white bathrooms, and that is really the wrong choice if you need to help people with impaired vision understand where the counter stops and the sink starts. So we always use a different color bowl from the counter, a different color wall behind the toilet, and none of this feels like we are the support features. It's just nice. It's just colorful and nice. In renovation, lighting is critical. And we talked a little bit about the circadian lighting, the lighting that is mimicking the circadian rhythm, but general lighting that is soft and even, and this room is pretty good, that doesn't create harsh shadows or very strong spots. That is the lighting that you want to go for. And always go for higher level than you think you need and add a dimmer, because you will be surprised how the ability to absorb light goes down from like 25 and on. And so really the ability to flood a place with light when needed and then take it down where you want a more calm atmosphere, dimmers are really critical. And with LED lights, they're almost kind of come with the package. You're not spending a lot more money for that. And the last example that I'm showing here are these two images. The image on the left was the existing of a common area, like in a community room. And it had like a forest of columns that we found out that not all of them were actually structural. That was their way of separating the corridor from the space. And what we did was we eliminated the columns that were not structural and created an open. This is the exact same space and almost the exact same angle. We got rid of these very institutional lights and added some decorative lights and kind of converted this space from being something that people didn't want to go to something that they really enjoyed. And the last one that I want to talk about is furnishing. And when you do renovations or new construction, sometimes you say, oh, our furniture is really old and dated and we want something to refresh the space. And again, this is an expertise. And there are manufacturers that are focusing on gorgeous, good-looking, modern-looking, transitional-looking furniture that are designed especially for older people. And the ergonomics of chairs and sofas and arms are part of the design of the piece. And also, the furniture, again, go back to advertising what they are. So if it's a dining room, it's a dining room. If it's a studio, if it's a gardening area, if it's a sunroom, the furniture can advertise what the space is doing. Avoiding sharp edges, I think that's kind of obvious. And use, again, the contrast and color in the same way. If you want to make things visible, to jump out, use contrast. If you want something to disappear and go away, don't use contrast. Make it all kind of flow in the same hue and in the same saturation. And what's also very important to operators is for the furniture to be durable. Usually furniture that are like commercial and designed for older people, they are more durable, and they're also designed in a cleanable way. Cleanable materials, but also where the seat and the back, they're usually not connected, so you can clean everything very easily. Outdoors, as I said, extremely important. Being outdoors, being in the sun, absorbing the sun, even when it's not really sunny. So outdoors that is open and not restricted is critical, because as long as the outdoor is part of an open space, you can see if somebody went out, you can see if they went out in an inappropriate time, then you can come back and help them back in if it's snowing or whatever and they're not dressed appropriately. And everything in the outdoors should be familiar, should be like a backyard. And one of the things that we're really focusing on is making outdoor spaces not just passive outdoors, because there's so many things that you can do outdoors, not just sit. From gardening on raised beds to musical instruments. I've seen a place that they had a chicken coop, and residents were taking care of the chicken, and also sculptures and art and outdoor chair yoga classes. So very important to use the outdoors like as an outdoor room that you can do things. It's not just the leftover from the building that you just plant some grass and a few flowers. What not to do? These are just like a few horror pictures. Glossy floor, glary room, very, very busy carpet, somebody that wanted to have all the information, including the fire alarm, including the activities, including a mirror that can get, so that's a no-no. So everything you see here is, don't go there. Okay, so guesses, what is this building? What is the function of this building? If you really been there and know, don't say. Guesses? A what? Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Another good one. A what? A war memorial. Okay, like to the destruction of a, yes. I would go for that. Okay. Well, good. Good. All right. This is the Brain Health Center in Las Vegas, and they take care of people with brain and dementia issues there.
Not a good example. So we have 5 minutes for questions. Anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
So, as we're thinking about inclusion and equity, have you come across ways to marry what might be opposing recommendations? So I know there's a guide up there that says, for folks beside in your offices, do not have arms and chairs. Like, remember when recommendations don't have arms on your chairs. Or folks that are saying, you have your bathroom, don't do the binary piece. Which
Right.
seems counter. So how do we marry those to make it inclusive space for everybody when there are people that need that?
We are asked that a lot because of particularly the confusion that's created with bathrooms for everyone, right? And if you're an older adult, you may or may not understand that concept. But you are going to understand the restroom sign. And it may be that the restroom sign doesn't have a gender, or it has both. I've seen other examples, the worst of which is at a theater in Cambridge that has, stalls with urinals with stalls with no door. I mean, they break it all out, and you can't. Everybody runs to the family because you can't figure out where to go to the bathroom. So yeah, we see it. And mostly what you have to try to do is to do your best to make sure the sign is clear, that there aren't distractions around it, no cutesy stuff around the outside of the sign, and that it is put in a place and at a level that can clearly communicate that this is a restroom for everybody. Carlene?
This sort of takes that same question to another place. On a couple of slides, you talked about familiar and how important familiar was. And by the way, this was super helpful to me personally as well as professionally. I live with a person with dementia. I learned 2 new things I'm going to try when I get home today. What is familiar to one culture is very foreign to another. The food smells that you're talking about, like dining smells of, like roast chicken versus dining smells of curry are very different. Or at least in my head they are, maybe I'm wrong about that too. Because what is familiar is very different. And so how the person who is defining familiar is going to be thinking about what is familiar to them. And I think we have to take that
Yes,
pretty seriously. What is the artwork? What is the music? All of that is very, very, very culturally
I
defined.
only got one question, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. I can feel that.
And the last thing we want is segregation, like a Chinese nursing or community, a Indian community, so we don't want that. And I know that, for instance, in a nursing home that is in Quincy that is.
Can you use the mic, please?
Sorry.
A nursing home that we worked on, a long-term care that we worked on in Quincy, that started in Chinatown and moved to Quincy and caters mainly for people from China. Their food is dual. Every meal they have Chinese food and American food. So they're trying to attract people and not say, oh, we're just focusing on our Chinese community, but everybody is welcome, and we're catering for them as well. But this is definitely something to think about, and you cannot take a geographical region and say, this is our familiar, because there's so many diverse people and cultures.
So you have been a terrific. Can we take one more? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we talk a lot, kind of exactly what your question
I'm
is.
sorry, can you stand up and,
Yeah.
Alright,
yeah.
So we talked a lot about the actual principal design, and then we talked about nursing homes. As a person in both worlds, a lot of the nursing homes you have step down, right? Because it's like a step down, people go home. And so, is there anything that helps folks that take mom and dad home in order to keep them in their home to, for like a dementia design? Because of course all these are really cool, but a lot of folks take mom home because we can't afford to keep them here. So how is it like the community aspect to teaching folks to how to keep folks in their home that's kind of dementia friendly, that's understandable to, grandma, grandpa, or whatever, that can help paint a door or something, kind of equivalent to when you take them home and they have to have rehab.
So pretty much all of these principles can be applied in a home and in a senior center and in a library. If you think about maintenance and you think about renovation, or if you have won the lottery and you're on a way to a new building in your community, all of these can be applied. They can also be applied at home. You can paint a door, you can pick up throw rugs. We have a whole list of things, and I have to advertise the AARP Home Fit Guide because that's going to help you navigate in very great detail how to make your home age and dementia friendly, and that mostly is about safety, which is really important.
Okay, round of applause, please.